Welcome to the Trumpet of the last few days. I'm Stanley Farrar.
And I'm Robert Farrar.
And I'm Joshua Farrar. The pariah who's been exiled to the terrible wasteland that is Europe.
Enjoying government lockdown?
Yeah, they just... So, the Italian president has been getting more and more restrictive on things lately. So, things were most restrictive back in March, and they sort of loosened up as we went, but they started re-restricting things about a month ago. And their restrictions are just getting more heavy-handed as it's going on, and it's annoying. Like, you can get fined right now if you go outside and you don't have a mask on your person at all times.
If you have a pre-existing condition.
Doesn't matter. There is no leeway there in Italy. Doesn't matter
That's
if you get
insane.
asthma attacks. Welcome to Europe.
It's going to be a while before I go back there.
Yeah.
Well, they're enforcing the masks less and less here.
I wish they would do that here.
Well, their healthcare system crashed under the flu, so they can't afford a lot of coronavirus cases.
Well, it's all socialized medicine, and socialized medicine is worthless anyway. That's why the Democrats want it.
So they can choose who
They
lives
take
and who
and
dies.
get a lot of money. Essentially, yes. They get a lot of money from the Sierra Club, and the Sierra Club wants to wipe out 2/3 of the world. So, socialized medicine is an ideal method to do it. They're probably targeting the president right now.
So, what I'm getting out of this is we need to create an independent lobbying group that lobbies the government, more specifically the general populace, to execute every politician in the world for green reasons.
Somehow
Well,
the
the Sierra Club thinks that only the elite should be allowed to live, but actually, it's probably the elites can do more damage to the environment than the poor.
Oh, far more.
poor can't afford to.
But being you're telling me that the news is now taking and saying that the president has COVID.
Yes. That is the current news cycle.
As I last checked, he was doing fine. But we don't know how long that'll last.
As of this morning, the report came in that he and the First Lady had both contracted COVID-19. Additionally, all the White House staff are going nuts about it. Apparently, it's complete pandemonium.
Well,
Why? Because they don't want it?
well, that doesn't.
Because they don't want it, and because they're finding out that they've already been exposed to it.
Well, there's also the fact that most of them are lefties anyway, and think the world's going to come to an end if they catch a cold.
Well, if they don't deal with the cold correctly, their world might just come to an end.
Especially this cold.
The cold was fatal for a very long time. Granted, it primarily killed people by making them die of dehydration, but it still was fatal.
Well, you figure the COVID is dangerous for people who are over a certain age and have pre-existing conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, it could be very dangerous for the president.
Yeah, in theory. And if he does in fact die from it, which is a possibility, regardless of how unlikely, the election would be thrown for a massive loop.
Pence would have to take up the reins and do it.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, if he does die, yes, Pence will automatically be president. But what about the election?
Yeah,
well, that's the thing. That's why I said he'll have to take up the reins and take him up quick.
Problem is, he's had basically no public face. So, other than just sort of being there, no one really knows what he stands for.
A lot of Trump's base would
Which could be an
probably-
advantage.
It could be an advantage, but it would also be a disadvantage because it would be an unknown quantity.
Now, one thing about it is he doesn't attack like Trump does.
Not at all. Which would be to his
And
advantage to
when it comes,
classic conservatives, but it would be to his disadvantage to the majority of Trump's base.
majority of Trump's base want an aggressive person in there.
Yeah, because
And
only
they
an aggressive
want
person can actually bring change.
And a lot of his people that have decided they're going to vote for him are people that want the establishment torn down, and Pence is establishment.
Yeah, he's about as establishment as you can get in regards to the conservatives. Which was a clever move when choosing him in the first place, because it gave the establishment a reason to back him.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's a little more feisty than some of the establishment.
Well, after taking
And
all this abuse for the last 4 years, I'd be more surprised if he wasn't.
Well, I credit it honestly to Trump's influence, kind of. To him.
Rather than direct influence of Trump, I credit it more to just the relentless assault he's been getting from the left. Both of them have been.
But when he is in the limelight, it does tend to be fighting against the left.
Yeah.
Though he's rarely in the limelight.
the left is constantly attacking, and really, the Republicans have not established anybody as an up-and-comer to be the next person in line.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. Big problem.
Could be a problem. It's only a problem if Trump dies.
Or if he loses the race.
Mm-hmm.
No, if he loses the race, you've got 4 years to establish another up-and-comer. You're fine.
Yeah, they waited until the very end last time before Trump came up as an up-and-comer.
Yeah. Personally, if the election is lost over this, and it's possible, and there isn't a civil war in between now and next election, which is beginning to look like a bigger and bigger if every day, I would support Ted Cruz if he ran again.
Well, I supported Ted Cruz last time.
I didn't know much about Ted Cruz last time. That, and I was away from the country, so my vote wasn't counted.
The problem with Ted Cruz is that he was an establishment candidate.
Yeah.
Very much an establishment candidate. And he was a conservative establishment candidate, so he was going to be hated by both his own party and the left.
Yeah. I really knew nothing about Ted Cruz going into the last election. It's the things that I've seen him do since then that caught my attention.
Well, I know it's not physically possible because America doesn't like electing people that are related to previous presidents.
Well,
But Donald Trump Jr. or Eric Trump would both have the personality to carry on.
especially Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, he seems pretty on fire for politics.
Well, after you get attacked that much, you kind of don't have an option.
He's one of the main.
But he doesn't cut him any slack.
Yeah, none at all.
He's one of the many people campaigning for his dad.
If you take a look at the options, you've got a senile old man with a megalomaniac,
Hmm.
and running against and a energetic old man who's now got COVID, and a guy who stays in the shadows.
Yeah. The Shadow President. Yeah.
So that's what we've got heading up against each other right now, and Trump is undoubtedly the more intelligent and the better option, but if he's very bad set.
Yeah.
But
But if you look at what
how much of Trump's current base would just vote for Pence just as a matter of principle, not vote for Biden?
I would say probably between 75 to 90%. The questions are people like the lefties that hate the violence and are anti-war, that don't like Biden or horrible Harris because of their history, but they wouldn't like Pence any better than they do them.
True, but the never-Trumpers would come back to the party. So there's that.
That wouldn't be enough to swing the vote.
I don't think they would.
You think they just declared their colors at the outset and proved who they really were?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Pence would have to run on Trump's policy. He'd have no choice.
Slightly related. Is our cousin still a never-Trumper? Or,
Which cousin?
the only one that was extremely vocal about it?
Actually, no, she isn't.
Ah.
She's Trump has grown on her.
Okay.
Oh, what's her name? Well, one of Dad's cousins on his mom's side.
The branch of the family that we never speak to for any reason whatsoever?
Yeah. Oh, I speak to him some.
I don't even know them.
But
most of them.
Some of them are actually for Trump, and some of them are dead set against Trump. Because one of my cousins and her whole family are, or if it's a D, you vote for it.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Utterly.
Because I know good and well she doesn't agree with anything that they're actually promoting, and yet she'll vote for them anyway because they're a Democrat.
Which makes no sense, but I've never understood why people would blindly support a side anyway. What's the point?
No. I have actually halfway hoping that this coming out of the closet that they've done actually kills the Democrat Party and makes it totally unable to get elected again.
Well, the question would then
Though I
become,
know that's wishful thinking.
If that was to happen, and we were to go along that line of reason, however, the question would then become, who would replace them? Or what would replace them?
It's looking like the Libertarian Party, but or not. is what's coming to replace.
It's very possible the Libertarian Party could replace them.
Maybe.
And they would be a much superior choice to the Democrats.
Oh, yeah. I'll support any group that believes in downsizing the government over increasing them.
Which is why establishment Republicans are bad, too, because they're just as bad as the Democrats when it comes to expanding government.
Yeah.
My problems with the Libertarians is they want to make... They are socially liberal. They're fiscally conservative, but socially liberal.
Mm-hmm.
So things that actually are detrimental to society, they want legalized. And when you do that, I think you should have the right to do most things as long as it only affects you.
Yeah.
But when it actually affects other people, I don't think you have the right to do it. And the Libertarians have taken the position that they do have that it doesn't matter whether it affects somebody else; they have the right to do it.
Actually, no.
And that's just not right.
No, that's not their position. Their position is exactly what you said, word for word. It's just you disagree with them over what affects it.
Robert, there's a little bit of a difference there, though. Is that the Libertarians, as they are as a party, versus what the current Libertarian platform is. And there's always a difference between what the majority party believes and what the platform is saying. And that's the truth for whether it's Republican, Democrat, or Libertarian.
But typically...
Although I agree with you in regards to the whole Libertarian thing, is for the most part Libertarians believe that they can do whatever they want as long as it doesn't affect someone else.
Well, it's actually one of their governing principles.
It is one of their governing principles, but the Libertarian Party does not follow those governing principles.
How do you know? Have you read their platform?
Yes. It's one of the reasons I was looking into Libertarians for a while because I was trying to find out how they measured up against my beliefs.
Yeah. I find them to be hypocrites.
Yeah. Same. We're waiting for Dad to reconnect, though.
Would have been nice to get that all on the record. But
yeah. We can still keep this part in, and just, when Dad pops back in, just pretend it didn't, pretend he was never gone.
But a lot of the time the Libertarians claim to espouse small government and low government control, but when it comes to society, when it actually plays out, they support high government control. So,
problem is, if any group that it gets large enough to form a party abandons that that thought of lower government control, because the building a party line and a party basis is by its essence increasing government size and government control.
Yeah. Which is why they need to get rid of the caucus requirements in Congress.
Yeah.
So, did everyone watch the debate not last night, 2 nights ago?
I watched a good 3/4 of it and got frustrated and turned it off.
We actually missed about a half hour of it, but we got the entire rest of it.
One thing that was pointed out by Newsmax took and was having a conversation with the reporter, not with the reporter, with a senator. And he took a clipping from that debate and put it on the air, and then turned to the senator and said, "Can you claim that Chris Wallace is non-biased after seeing that?"
That was what was frustrating me. That's why I ended up turning it off. It became so obvious that it was rigged from the start. There was no point in continuing to watch it.
I knew that Chris Wallace was an anti-Trumper.
Yeah.
But he normally likes to keep the appearance
of being non-biased.
Of at least presenting things in a non-biased fashion. He didn't even attempt it.
Yeah.
Did you see his last interview with President Trump? It was horrendous. And yet they still chose him to moderate the debate?
That's because the liberals are the ones that pick who moderates these debates. It's the people who are financing them. It's not the president that picks them, or Biden even. It's the people who are financing them.
Money talks.
And that's one reason why so many people want to see Joe Rogan moderate one of these debates, but it'll never happen.
Yeah. He's probably the closest to someone impartial you can get for it. That's a public figure. What just went over your mic? What just went over your camera?
Oh. A fly just walked over the camera.
Apparently it thinks you're pretty fly for a white guy.
Oh, by the whole President Trump didn't denounce white supremacy. What drugs are these journalists on?
More specifically, he didn't blatantly denounce the Proud Boys.
Oh, like the Proud Boys are a white supremacy group being led by a black Cuban.
President Trump, will you denounce white supremacy? Sure. That's what he said.
Yeah.
What were these people watching?
Well, the Fox reporter in the next news briefing at the White House took and tried to corner the press secretary on that, and she took and brought out date after date after date where he denied, where he took and denounced the white supremacists, and the guy still said, well, why won't he denounce the white supremacists? He's already done it dozens of times.
Thing is, they want him to denounce the Proud Boys, and the Proud Boys, what have they really done?
Not much.
They fought Antifa.
They fought Antifa, and they tricked a bunch of BLM into thinking there was a riot where there wasn't.
Wait a second. So they've basically done nothing. Because remember, Antifa doesn't exist.
That is what Biden said.
They have effectively done nothing. If Antifa really doesn't exist, they have done nothing.
So what are they taking good criticizing them for?
Existing?
And think about it. The reason why they're against the Proud Boys is the Proud Boys' position is they're proud to be Americans and they flaunt it.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of how they named themselves.
And when you take and you look at what they're out to do, they hate them because they are against all these communists that are rising up.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that they're not going to be able to overcome. Because the Proud Boys aren't the only people that are against the communists.
Surprise, most of America is against the communists.
Yeah, only the radical left who's trying to make America communist are supporting these groups.
Yeah.
You got horrible Harris taking and raising funds to take and bail out the rioters, and they're all supporting them, while Biden saying, "Oh no, I won't say that. It won't say that I support or oppose Black Lives Matter." Yeah, you have. You just don't won't do it on a national mic.
Well, think about it. His refusal to condemn Antifa. In fact, his refusal to even acknowledge Antifa when they're pretty obviously the main group behind them, and BLM are the main groups behind the riot. So if they don't exist, well, it's just a slap in the face to his constituents. But when it comes to the debate, besides the obviously biased moderator, I do think that the president did better than Biden, mostly because Biden was trying to play the president game, and imitations rarely meet the standard of the original.
Yeah, but dementia has the effect of making you forget what you're good at.
And forget that you're bad at things?
Yeah. Makes you literally lose your experience in things.
But the president would have been a lot better off just let Biden talk.
Yeah. He would have.
And then he could have gone in and just completely pummeled. Instead, he was trying to completely pummel him the whole time.
Which he half succeeded.
Half succeeded, isn't fully succeeded. There were a lot of chinks in Biden's armor that he could have exploited. That he didn't.
But if he didn't, would he have been given the chance to exploit those chinks? After all, biased moderator.
It was a biased moderator, but there was still he needed to. There was one time, I forget what he said, but he had waited until there was a slight pause in what Biden said, and then he came in on it, and that was one of the most impactful statements that he made in the entire debate.
Mm-hmm.
Because he waited for the right time. He didn't wait for Chris Wallace, but he waited until Biden had left an opening. So, do you think that the term meme, when applied the way we apply it, itself a joke?
Do what?
Because meme was originally a term created by Richard Dawkins, author of The God Delusion.
Okay.
To describe aspects of evolution. So I think whoever chose to apply the term meme to jokes like that and to pictures like that was like, yeah, this is evolution right here. This is societal evolution.
Maybe. What about evolution was meme referencing?
Just the ways that evolution shows itself. And so by applying it to these jokes, it's basically makes it the ultimate. You know, that people talk about using memes ironically. Well, it's kind of that way itself, just by the term.
Well, yes, but also you can watch in real time as memes evolve.
Yes, but it's societal devolution, not evolution.
No, because evolution is just change. It's neither for the better nor for the worst. For the worse, it is just change.
But because it was created by a macroevolutionist, it's automatically stated with the idea that it's a positive change, not a negative one.
But that's not scientifically accurate. I
know it's not scientifically accurate.
Even in the community of macroevolutionists, evolution just is change, neither for the better or for the worst. Change that is reinforced by survival of the fittest, but only change.
But die-hard macroevolutionists like Dawkins always view it as a positive change.
It is commonly and often viewed as a positive change. But most of the evolutionary committee doesn't believe that. Let's see. A unit of cultural information spread by imitation. It's a term from the Greek mimema, meaning imitated. It was introduced in 1976 by British evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins in his work The Selfish Gene. So yeah, information spread by imitation. It is literally meme. Huh. That's from Britannica, by the way.
Question, see, when he introduced it, though, I don't think that was the that might be the definition is now.
Let's see, it says here, Dawkins conceived of memes as the cultural parallel to biological genes, and considered them in a manner similar to selfish genes, as being in control of their own reproduction, and thus serving their own ends. Understood in those terms, memes carry information, are replicated and transmitted from one person to another, and they have the ability to evolve, mutating at random, undergoing natural selection with or without impacts on human fitness. Reproduction and survival. The concept of the meme, however, remains largely theoretical. It is also controversial, given the notion of selfishness and application of the concept to evolution of cultures, which form the basis of the field of memetics? Memetics?
Genetics.
Memetics?
Yeah.
But apparently, his work in 1976 was actually directly referencing just cultural norms. Huh.
Yeah,
he wasn't even just referencing... Memes weren't even just referencing something he was talking about. He just directly named memes.
Yeah.
It's not even a thing of irony. It's just direct parallel.
Yeah. Well, no, but the memes we have today are not the same, not quite the same as what he was talking
They're
about.
transmitted different. They are the same.
It's the same idea. That's why they're called memes. But the memes we know today, he was just talking about informational spread general.
Yeah. But it doesn't even seem like it's a reference. It's just to mess with it. The natural evolution of the term.
Yeah. And I'd say there is some truth to using that term.
There's a lot of truth to using that term. In fact, memes evolve more than life forms do, for obvious reasons.
I just don't like what he wants to.
Oh, I don't agree with the logic process he was coming in from behind it with, but in regards to just the way humans spread information, it was astonishingly accurate.
Yeah.
I
So,
think I dropped in on the middle of this conversation. I don't have a clue what y'all are talking about.
So Robert gave a little factoid about a guy who coined the term meme.
Richard Dawkins.
A guy named Richard Dawkins in 1976.
He knows who Richard Dawkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know about him taking and coining the term meme.
So I looked it up, and because there was a little bit of a dispute between the two of us over what the term's definition was. So I looked up that definition as Richard Dawkins gave it, and it is a word-for-word description of what memes are. So he didn't. They're not even called memes to reference him ironically. He just directly named named them.
Before they even memes as we know it existed.
Oh, they existed. They were just different.
I thought they existed since the 1980s, not the 70s.
Memes on the internet existed. since the 1980s.
It's true. One could argue that Kilroy was here with.
Yeah.
Now, where were we on our primary topics?
Oh, I don't know. I've completely lost track.
We were talking about the debate. I was talking about how President Trump needs his mouth shut.
Need to learn when to be quiet.
And when to go in for the kill.
Well, it has been suggested that they should take and do a debate without a moderator.
Which I think is a great idea.
I don't agree. I don't think that's a good idea. It'll just turn into a shouting match. There is nothing of value to gain from that.
It already is a shouting match.
Yes, and there's very precious little to gain from it as it is. It'll just go from having very little of value to having nothing of value. Now, if they did that, and made it a non-moderated debate, and made it pay-per-view, oh man, they could rake in the cash.
Who would be making money?
I don't know, whoever hosted it.
Just the liberal organization.
But the thing is, pay-per-view things like that, if I recall correctly, it's the challenged who has the right to set the terms of engagement in regards to that. And as the incumbent, Trump is the challenged, so he can determine the organization, or, if he really was clever, the charity that would make profit from the pay-per-view event.
Kind of like he determines where the charity he sends his salary to.
Exactly.
Now, if they would take and put it down into an actual debate format, where they had to present their position and then defend their position, it would be a much better format, because then they'd be talking actual policy.
So go to Robert's Rules of Order.
No, more like competitive debate.
Yeah, which is derived from Robert's Rules of Order. Because that governs parliamentary debate.
I'm going to drop out.
Alrighty.
Alright. Should we continue, or?
We can continue.
So now there are two.
We have just about enough information to come close to calling the episode there, if you want.
Yeah, I don't know what we talk about for.
Well, we could loop back around to the origins of memes, and I could tell you that, technically speaking, in the 1800s, the most prevalent meme was Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, I've never read that book.
So, Uncle Tom's Cabin, in its essence, because a lot of people don't really understand what the book was actually about. It was about a guy named Uncle Tom who, in the constraints of what he was able to, was trying to smuggle people into the Underground Railroad. And it became really, really big around the time of and just after the Civil War. It became huge, to the point that they were making fan fictions about it, which, by its essence, is a type of meme. Because based on his definition, it's the cultural transmission of information and its evolution over time.
Yeah.
And as this went on, what the book was actually about got watered down and confused with all the fan fictions and all the side tellings and retellings of the story. And as the story changed, people began to see Uncle Tom as a race traitor rather than the hero he was.
It's pretty different.
It's extremely different, but it took place, the steady change of it from being diluted from what it was into the race trader idea happened over from the 1880s to the 1960s. It took that long of it to change.
It's almost 100.
It's almost 100 years. But it was the biggest and most prevalent example of a meme in history.
I don't know about in history.
Well, there were some Shakespeare plays that came close, but the Shakespeare plays have remained relatively pure and didn't evolve, and therefore don't really fall under the context of a meme. I suppose you could say that mythology, for most countries, for most religions, is similar, and those mythologies in of themselves, namely Egyptian mythology, was very prone to changing and contradicting itself, would qualify. But Uncle Tom's Cabin is far more recorded and less oral, tradition-wise.
Well, then you've got the Apocrypha, which was written.
The Apocrypha would be a perfect example. Another example would be the Divine Comedies.
Not a fan of it.
But I'm not a fan of the Divine Comedies either. But the Divine Comedies reference the Bible. They reference his own personal beliefs. They reference the Iliad. They reference the Odyssey. They reference a variety of other writings of the time and other writers that he hated or was on bad terms with. There was a lot of internal references inside of the Divine Comedies that requires a lot of background information to fully understand.
People take Bible.
Do what?
People basically put it on the. Some people basically put it on the level of Scripture,
which is inherently wrong, but at least understanding it isn't, and what it came from isn't a bad thing, even if the writing itself is less than subpar.
Yeah. And that's coming from someone in Italy. Watch yourself. They hold him in high esteem.
Maybe in mainland Italy. I'm in Sicily.
It's true. The rebel island.
Yeah. We'll just throw people into the labyrinth and feed them to the Minotaur.
They don't know that actually was in Sicily. They don't know where that was.
It's either in Sicily or Crete.
I think they found the labyrinth.
But Sicily also claims to be the homeland of Medusa, so there's that. But that was more of an intention to scare off other people because they wanted to be left alone.
That didn't work.
It didn't.
Sicily is the reason why Rome became as powerful as it was.
Yeah, it was the staging ground for attacking Carthage.
It kicked off the First Punic War.
Yeah, and I think the Second Punic War, too.
No, the Second Punic War was started in Spain.
Alright, and the Third Punic War was Hannibal.
Just Carthage. No, Second Punic War was Hannibal. Hannibal's kicked it off in Spain.
And he marched around the Alps.
Yeah. You've heard of
I was pretty sure Hannibal
right?
was Third Punic War.
Nope, Second.
Alright.
But you heard of... So you had Hamilcar Barca, the hero of the First War. His son was Hannibal.
Okay.
And he had made his son swear a blood oath that he would never be a friend to Rome.
Okay.
But Barcelona, believe it or not, is named for Bark. Fun fact.
Yeah. Now that we've gone completely off topic and given a little bit of a history lesson, as well as this does mean I'm going to have to leave the early meme stuff in, for the later meme stuff to have context. Man, editing's going to be annoying this time around.
Just so you know, none of this has much to do with, except that memes impact our daily lives, especially those of us who dwell on the internet for a period of time.
Oh, I just find the information itself to be interesting. I don't care if it has an impact.
So there you go. Now you know. So we hope that you'll join us next time for the next episode.
For the next exciting episode of
Until then,
Trumpet
feel
of the
free
last
to
few
hit the
days.
like and subscribe button, ring the bell, and feel free to drop a comment down in the comments below. Till then, see you next time.